Hey everyone, welcome back to the Fit to Fat to Fit Experience podcast. I'm your host, Drew Manning. Now it's just going to be me today. Lynn's not here, she's out of town. So hopefully you guys still stick around and hopefully I can entertain you just a little bit. Today's guest is Chris Beeler. Now Chris Beeler, for those of you who don't know, is a very popular CrossFit Games athlete. He's been there since the beginning. I think he started back in 2007. He went to like the very first CrossFit Games and has just been dominant over the years. Has been really consistent in the CrossFit world. And now he's he's a dad. He's a CrossFit affiliate owner, and he trains multiple athletes now. Kind of sharing his experiences as a top-level CrossFit Games athlete and passing that knowledge on down. Now, in today's episode, whether you're in CrossFit or not, you guys, there's still a lot of hidden gems in this episode that I think a lot of people can learn from. For example, Chris Beeler kind of talks about, CrossFit as a whole and, who it's for, who it isn't for. We kind of dive into where he sees CrossFit going in the next 5 to 10 years. And then we talk about nutrition, we talk about supplements, a lot of very valuable things that I think anybody, whether you're a man or woman, CrossFit athlete, or you like CrossFit, or you're thinking about trying it, can learn from. So stick around. This is definitely a great episode. It's a shorter one. I kept it to about 30 minutes, but still a lot of great information in this episode. Before we go hang out with Chris, our show sponsors today are Ketogenics.com. And Ketogenics is an exogenous ketone supplement company, you guys. You might have heard of Ketogenics or exogenous ketones from people like Tim Ferriss or Joe Rogan. There's a lot of famous athletes now taking these exogenous ketones as a pre-workout supplement instead of your typical pre-workout supplements that are out there, because it's totally different. It puts your body in a totally different metabolic state, which is called ketosis, where you're running off of ketones instead of glucose. And it's a great experience. If you haven't experienced what it's like to be in ketosis, I definitely highly recommend for you to try it out for at least 30 days to see how you feel. For me, here's what I noticed. Here's the biggest things I noticed being in a state of ketosis. My brain's a lot clearer. My mental clarity, my cognitive function has improved. My focus, my energy levels throughout the day I don't have these dips in energy levels like I normally do when I'm eating like a higher carb or higher protein type of diet. And ketogenics is great because what it does is it hacks your body and puts you in a state of ketosis within 60 minutes of taking it. So nutritionally, if you eat a keto diet, you can get into ketosis, but it can take a while. But taking ketogenics, you guys, can put you in, or does put you in a state of ketosis within 60 minutes. So it definitely speeds up that process. There's a lot of neuroprotective benefits for your brain by taking these exogenous ketones from Ketogenics. And if you guys use my code, if you go to ketogenics.com and use the code FIT2FAT2FIT, that's FIT number 2, FAT number 2, FIT, you will receive a 15% off discount for all my Fit to Fat to Fit followers. So like I said, definitely recommend everybody experiencing it at least once to see what it feels like for you. Go to ketogenics.com, use the code FIT2FAT2FIT. Our next sponsor, you guys, is dollarworkoutclub.com. Now, dollarworkoutclub.com is kind of similar to Dollar Shave Club, but for the fitness industry. And it's a program that me, Lynn, and Natalie Hodson all came together and created. And it's an online fitness platform that basically how it works, you guys, is you pay $1 per week. That's it. There's no like hidden fees or long-term contracts or anything like that. You pay $1 a week and you get access to 5 at-home workout videos that you can stream anywhere to your laptop, your computer, your phone. And these are workouts that are 10 to 20 minutes long, high-intensity interval training with minimal equipment, so you don't need any special equipment. And it's for all fitness levels, you guys. It's not just for the advanced, the best of the best of the best. It's for your beginner levels, so maybe like an older, like your grandma, for example, your mom could do these workouts at the beginner level, or someone in between, and it has beginner, intermediate, and advanced levels of these workouts. So you pay $1 a week, you get access to those 5 at-home workout videos, and then on top of that, you get access to 5 healthy recipe videos every single week. And this is all new content, you guys. This isn't just 20 recipes recycled every week. It's new content every single day. And then you also get access to 5 motivational videos. So in all, you're getting access to 15 high quality videos every single week. And like I said, it's just $1. dollarworkoutclub.com. Check it out, and try it out. Like I said, what do you have to lose? It's only $1. So those are our show sponsors, you guys. Let's go and hang out with Chris Beather now. All right, Chris Beather, welcome to the Fit to Fat to Fit Experience podcast. How are you doing today, man?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, it's good to have you on. I know a lot of my followers are excited to have you on. Now, you are actually the first, I would call you a CrossFit professional on my podcast. So I know, and I have a lot of buddies that do CrossFit, and I do CrossFit myself. So I know a lot of people are excited for this episode. So thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah. Now, really quick before we jump in, I heard that you were in Korea recently. What was that for?
Yeah, so I just got back from South Korea. We were teaching a CrossFit competitors course, myself, another guy, Matt Chan, and Eric O'Connor. We kind of created the course, and it helps athletes and coaches that kind of dig the competition side of CrossFit and cover a bunch of topics. And so, yeah, we had booked a gig out there and got to do a weekend of work in South Korea.
Dude, that's so cool. So do people speak English over there? Like, did you guys have to have translators to teach what you guys were saying?
Yeah, we were there. We had 2 translators, and we translate all the lectures and all the breakouts. And there were definitely a handful of people that spoke English, but I'd say probably half of them didn't speak much English at all.
Yeah, that's really interesting to me, because I'm speaking. Like I spoke another language for a while, Portuguese, and it's one thing to speak, conversationally or certain topics, but to speak like about CrossFit, for example, like I wonder what some of the translations are.
Yeah, they have to do a lot of work because obviously, like you've experienced, it's sometimes hard to define or find a way to really use a word in its entirety, or what it's meant to mean in English in another language.
Yeah, and then plus on top of that, we add like acronyms, to certain movements, so it makes it even more complicated. But
yeah,
that's so interesting, man. So okay, let's back up a little bit. Now I know a little bit about you, but my followers might not. You originally grew up on the East Coast, right? And then you moved to Utah and pretty much it became a ski bum. Is that kind of your story? Yeah. Or go ahead and you can go into it and explain it a little bit better.
So I was born in Salt Lake, but my parents are from Pennsylvania. So they had moved out here just to kind of get away and do their own thing. And my sister and I were born in Salt Lake, but we grew up outside of Philly. And, from the time before I was 1, I was there, and then went to school out there, went to college out there, wrestled in college, and then had always wanted to go to the mountains. And so I moved to Park City and kind of didn't know what I wanted to do. Did an internship and found out I really didn't like what I was doing. And then just kind of naturally turned into a ski bum, working in a ski shop and wrenching on bikes in the summer, and did that for about 4 or 5 years till I stumbled into the CrossFit jam.
Okay. And then from there, you just fell in love with it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting. I'd like to, after wrestling in college, I really missed the kind of the competitive atmosphere a little bit and just the purpose behind training. And when I found CrossFit, it just kind of fit that, or filled that void a little bit of just being able to compete even with myself again, and having the motivation of a community was pretty helpful.
Yeah, and I think I have a very similar story to that, because I wrestled in high school and college and had that same background as you. And then when I eventually got introduced to CrossFit back in, 2012-ish, 2013, I think. Yeah, I was just driven to it because I wasn't competing anymore, and that competitive atmosphere and the community aspect just kind of drew me in, and it definitely is addicting. I think for former athletes, it's a big turn on, to be able to kind of compete in a sense. Not that you're trying to be better than anybody else, but it does kind of create this competitive atmosphere. So I can definitely relate to what you're saying there. Now, you were there though in the beginning days of CrossFit, right?
I guess so, yeah. So I guess CrossFit started getting on the scene a little bit in 2000, 2001 with the website and things like that. But once it started to get some more affiliates and the games popped up, that's I just happened to be around at the same time.
Yeah. So what was it like? What was CrossFit like back then versus nowadays? Can you describe that?
Yeah. What's funny is like the community isn't necessarily different. The people, the community vibe, that's all really has kind of stayed true to the roots of CrossFit, but the competition side of things has just blown up. You know, it's when I started, there was no, I found all this stuff online. I just looked on CrossFit.com and would kind of figure out things by watching videos. And the CrossFit Games in 2007 was kind of just like people at a barbecue hanging out. And that's obviously evolved into pretty much a professional sport where people have coaches and have specific programming, and nutrition is even a larger role. It was then, but it is even more now. And it's just like, I think it's just a freight train. It's exponentially grown over the past 10 years.
Yeah, that's really cool for you to kind of experience that, to kind of see what it was in the beginning days and to kind of see where it is now, because I mean, a lot of people are very passionate about it, and it's really cool to see that. Now, CrossFit for you, when you first started doing the games versus now, I mean, you said people hire coaches and things like that. Back then, were you just kind of training by yourself, or did you have people kind of coaching you in any way, or what was it like for you back then, like training for the games?
Yeah, 2007 to 2011, I really did all my own programming and, would work out with some buddies, but, and I kind of evolved that programming as the games grew and the demands became more and more. So I did that through those kind of 4 years. But once 2011, 2012 hit, that's when things just started to get more competitive, more difficult to get back to the games, required just a ton more. And that's when I started to get coaching help, and largely because I just work well as someone that's like, hey, just tell me what I need to do and I'll do it. And that way I don't have to think about anything else. I just get to train.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I mean, it's like other sports, like you said, it's kind of become a professional sport where now you see, like, for example, football, now, Pop Warner League, kids are taking it very seriously, and they have like specific coaches and nutrition. And back in my day when I played football or wrestling back in high school, it was like the Wild West. Like, hey, just, here's what you do, and you just kind of go and do it, versus now it's like almost become a science, and it's kind of trickled down from like the professional athletes down to like your average person that plays like high school or even Pop Warner sports. And then in CrossFit, I see that all the time. I mean, there's people like, for example, in my box out here in Utah that, I mean, they really are training for like regionals, and they're putting in like 2 to 3 sessions a day. I mean, on top of their job and their family and things like that. You see that a lot too, right?
Yeah. And that's like, I think that's really cool, because we need to embrace that side of the sport and the program, and people that are passionate about it. It's great that they find those things and that they can be driven. And then on the other side of the coin, I think people need to realize that like that's actually like a really, really, really small percentage of the CrossFit community. And, what it really is just a strength and conditioning program for anybody. And that's kind of the catch-22 of the games, is that it's this great, awesome sport, and it's turned into professional sport, but the games is not CrossFit. Just like you experience when you go and do your affiliate or your box, it's like, the majority of those people are there just like want to throw down, enjoy the community, and be more fit. And that training looks very different than doing CrossFit as a sport.
Yeah. And you see like, the top of the top athletes, those are like the 1%ers who maybe have the time or the connections to have coaching and, do 2 to 3 sessions a day, and maybe they're sponsored, you know what I'm saying? So they have the ability to do that. But I think, most people don't go into CrossFit thinking, okay, I'm going to make it to the games. It's just like, hey, I'm going to be the best I can today. Maybe I might beat so-and-so for once, at the box, those kinds of things, which I think is cool. Now, where do you see CrossFit in the next 5 years? Do you feel like that it's like hit its peak? Do you feel like it'll just continue to grow? How does it change? How does it evolve? Do you think it's just a phase? Where do you see CrossFit going in the next 5 to 10 years from your perspective?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's really hard to answer. I think CrossFit is definitely not a phase. I think it's really left a pretty significant imprint on the fitness industry, the strength and conditioning industry. Whether people fully agree with it or not, I don't think that they can dispute that it's pretty much changed the face of fitness in some way or another. So I don't think it's going anywhere. Where it goes, I think, is more kind of the trick is, the competition side of things is only getting more competitive and the games is growing more. I'm more curious to see, I don't have any doubt that that's going to continue to move that way necessarily. I'm more curious to see what happens at the affiliate level.
Okay.
Like how people continue to do that. What's the growth in affiliates and how do people manage them or run them as a business? And, what do they do to continue to continue to make the community a good place and evolve themselves as coaches. So I think that's kind of the big question for me, because largely that's responsible. The responsibility falls on the affiliate owners' shoulders, and they need to be motivated to do that, just like any other trainer or professional in the industry.
Yeah, and what's cool is you're both an athlete and an affiliate owner. How have you guys had to change the way you do business as an owner over the years to kind of keep up with memberships or expand memberships? Just some of your advice on things you've learned from being an owner.
Yeah, I think there was a time when CrossFit was so new that people were just like, they didn't really know what it was, and they could come in the gym and try it, and they didn't have any stereotypes or perceptions of what it would be. And now, whether we like it or not, as an affiliate owner, I think people assume they know what CrossFit is, but they don't. And we can try to educate them as much as we want through a website or social media. But the reality is, we need to find ways to make people feel comfortable coming in the door. So I think as an affiliate owner, a CrossFit affiliate owner, it's really important to look at like your demographic and what people want, but also what they need and what's going to be a friendly way to get them started in CrossFit. Because often I think people are intimidated by it now when they don't have to be. So sometimes setting up another program that's like a kind of CrossFit light introductory program, might even be called something else, is a good way to get people's feet wet and experience the community and the coaching that they could get at a CrossFit class.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you your opinion on. Is I see a lot of affiliates kind of expanding and diversifying in a way where they don't just offer CrossFit. It's, they're offering yoga or a boot camp type class or, other types of like high intensity interval training classes. So when people have a membership there, it's not only CrossFit. They can kind of appeal to other areas of fitness. Do you feel like that's a good thing, or do you think that kind of washes out the CrossFit brand?
I think it just depends on how they do it. We do something really similar here. I think ultimately what people need to do is they need to care. I think you can still run great additional programs that still fall in line with kind of the core, I guess you could say, like beliefs of CrossFit, where, it's this idea of constantly varied functional movement at high intensity. I think we can do that in a really friendly way, or a way that's maybe less intimidating for people. And I think that's really easy to do, but the trick is that people don't get caught up in what I would think are kind of like the gimmicks or the stuff that is out there that is, it's just like a big marketing ploy, and that's I think the slippery slope. But people that care and people that understand what CrossFit is and what it does for people, I think it's easily moldable into other programs.
Interesting. Yeah, because I know I have a lot of, affiliate owners that listen to this podcast, and they definitely would love to hear, your opinion on that. So that's good advice for them. So hopefully they can take something away from that. Getting back to CrossFit specifically and kind of talking about, your CrossFit athlete, someone that's trying to go to the games versus just your average person that does CrossFit. Do you see things that maybe aren't as necessary for like your average CrossFit person to do? Like, let's talk about specific movements that your CrossFit Games athlete has to be very well diversified with, for example, Olympic lifting, cardio, strength training, versus just your average person that's going like maybe 3-4 days a week that just wants to get a good workout in. Are there certain movements that you don't think they should be doing versus your CrossFit Games athlete?
Yeah, I don't think the movement thing is an issue at all. I think that the movements, what they'll often say is our needs don't vary by kind, but only by degree. And I'm a big believer in that. Sometimes I think people, they either shy away from Olympic lifting, or they're like, I could never do a handstand walk, or I could never run 5 miles, or, it doesn't matter what it is. And I almost think it's like, well, all the more reason to do it, especially if you're just trying to be generally fit. Well, hey, if we have kind of a chink in our armor, why not work on that? And it doesn't mean that we have to be able to snatch 300 pounds, but just understanding the mechanics and the movement and the timing and the athleticism behind it, I just think that has so much value to even like a soccer mom. But the training is what differs. I think they don't need the volume. They don't need some special Olympic lifting program. They don't need some magical thing. Good, constantly varied CrossFit.
That's actually really good advice, because me being in the CrossFit world, right, going from your traditional like gym world to CrossFit, I definitely had that kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Internal battle. I'm like, do I dedicate the time to learn this movement that I suck at? Or do I just move on and focus on the things that I'm good at? And I'll give some specifics here. Like, I did not understand how to do a kipping pull-up for the longest time. And I didn't understand it. And I just didn't get a good feel for it. So it took me a while to learn it, but I'm like, I'm just going to learn it, because if I'm doing 100 pull-ups in a workout, it's going to suck doing all those strict, it's going to be really hard. Like, I'm not even going to be able to get there. So, I kind of forced myself to learn the movement, just become more efficient at it. And eventually I did. And the same thing with like double unders. Like for me, it sucks being an athlete, not knowing how to do double unders, consecutively. Like, I could maybe get 10 or 15, but like, eventually I just worked on it. And I did suck at it for the longest time. It took me a good year before I was able to get like 60 or 70 in a row. And it does feel good, because it's so easy to just say, you know what, I suck at this, I'm not even going to focus on it. But I think it's great to dedicate the time to learn something new and do something you don't think you can. The other thing that on the other side, where I'm like, you know what, I just might not ever be good at this, is like, for example, overhead squats and snatches. Like, my shoulders and my hip mobility, like I could, if I dedicated the time to focusing on mobility and just worked on that one movement, I know I could get good at it. But for me, it's like, I just feel like it takes away from these other things that are my strengths. So anyways, I'm kind of just venting here, I guess, but
no, you're in most people's position.
Okay.
And I think that's like, again, all the more reason to work on it, because if your hip and your shoulder mobility improve, it's going to make probably a lot of other things better. And I think that's what most people don't realize, is they don't see the value of like, hey, improving our weaknesses, that often helps us with our strengths too. I get better at overhead squatting, I'm probably going to be better at squatting in general. If I get better at doing a kipping pull-up, chances are, guess what? If I still do strict pull-ups, I'll be better at strict pull-ups too. So doesn't mean you have to let go of anything that you're good at. It just means you kind of add more things to the repertoire.
Yeah. Would you say you have any weaknesses when it comes to any movements?
Yeah, I think like for me, L-sits are really hard. I know people are like, oh, they're hard for everybody, but that's one that I really struggle with.
And when you say L-sits, you mean hanging from the bar? Or do you mean like on bars, like those?
Yeah, kind of bars? Either way. Yeah, okay. Either way, they're difficult for me. And then usually it's not so much like a movement thing, but it's more like moving heavier weight for consecutive reps, like heavier workouts. Those were always and have always been a challenge for me. So sometimes it's kind of refreshing, honestly, just to like not worry about trying to be the fastest guy in the gym or whatever, but knowing that going through the struggle makes you better. And you just kind of forget about the time, the clock, and you're just like, you know what, I'm just going to get through this thing today, and I'm going to be better for it by the end of it.
Interesting. So I'm curious to know, like the LSAT, that's very, very core focus. Like, you seem like you have a strong core. Why do you think you struggle with it?
Yeah, I think it's because my hamstrings are a little tight and my flexors are a little weak. So it's like that combo, because I don't necessarily feel it in my belly. I do, but like my hips start to hurt. And it's just like, so I think it's more of a mobility thing than it is just a raw strength thing.
Okay.
But all the more reason to do
it. Exactly. So kind of a selfish question here. What advice would you give somebody that struggles with like overhead squat form, that kind of leans forward, comes up on the toes a little bit, and the bar has to be bent like further back, to be able to go all the way down? Any advice? That's kind of a selfish question there, but
no, it's good. I think like a couple of things. Check out ankle range or ankle mobility, because sometimes that can really affect how upright people's torsos are in their squat. So you can check that out. Playing around with your stance, having a wider stance can sometimes kind of alleviate that a little bit. And then other thing that's kind of cool, which I think people sometimes forget about, is you can just work different ranges of motion. So if you shorten the range of motion but focus on like really good mechanics and slowly work your way down over time, whether that's in a training session as you're practicing it or even over a couple of weeks, that can be a good way to kind of learn the pattern of the movement without having quite the demand of the mobility when you're at the bottom of the squat.
Interesting. Yeah, I've kind of, I've looked into it a little bit, and it's definitely something that actually has improved over the years. Like, I used to suck at it really bad, but now I feel like I'm decent at it. It's just, I know it's not perfect. But at the same time, I don't know if I want to dedicate the time to becoming perfect at it, but it is nice not to feel that pain, when I'm going down and I know this isn't good for me. Like, I know that my form is off, and I'm like, this is just, I'll just do the bar, even though girls in the gym are doing more than me.
No, that's exactly it though, man. That's the process, that you're doing it right. Because otherwise it's just, people either just give up on it and they don't get any better, or they try to get too far ahead and they don't make any progress. So you're doing the right things, man.
Exactly. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Kind of want to shift gears here a little bit and ask you about your nutrition. I know that, for me, I'm a big believer in nutrition and plays a big part in overall health and fitness. Do you have any nutritional philosophies that you currently follow, that you kind of, talk about to your box or your athletes that you train?
Yeah, I think first is like, there's not a one size fits all. I think it's easy for people to be like, oh, this works great for me, it's going to work great for you. So one of the things that I've been doing for probably about 8 weeks now is this whole, it's kind of like picked up some steam in the CrossFit world, and it's, the whole macros thing.
Yeah.
So I've been trying that for about 2 months, and I've been tweaking the numbers as I've been going. And I think the cool thing that it's done for me is given me an understanding that it really does show that it's not a one size fits all, because I started out with, a baseline prescription, and I'm basically eating probably 1,000 more calories than would be originally recommended for me. But that's just what feels good to me. But I know other people that work completely different. So learning those things and understanding that, just giving yourself some kind of baseline, I think is the most important part. And then once you have a baseline, you understand kind of what's going in, then you can understand what you can get out of it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Just for those that are listening that don't understand what macros are, basically he's talking about your protein, fats, and carbohydrate intake. Those are your three main macronutrients. And so what is your percentage split that you've found works for you?
Right now, I'm still doing 40% carbs, 30% protein, and 30% fat. But what I've based it off of is like when you kind of start dialing things in, the highest would be for activity level would be a 15, but I bumped it up to a 20.
Okay.
That's kind of more along the lines of what I've been feeling good with. But I think I might see how it goes and then take some of the protein away and leave some of the carbs and fat. I'm going to give it another week or so and see how it feels.
Yeah. Now, I'm pretty familiar with, if it fits your macros. And sometimes it gets a bad rap because people are eating like, okay, well, I can eat carbs, proteins, or fats. And so basically anything that fits that, whether it's soda, Pop-Tarts, donuts, or whatever, like it just as long as it fits, it works. Now, have you found that to work for you, or are you pretty strict on what you eat, or as far as what the source is?
Yeah, I try to eat well, and it's mainly just because I honestly have a history of family heart disease. My grandfather died when he was 54 of his third heart attack. My dad has had 2 and he's 72. And it's like that kind of genetic coding, that didn't go anywhere, So I'm trying to honestly do this for the next probably 4 weeks, and I'm going to do a DEXA scan and then get my blood test again and see where things fall. And if my blood markers come up worse, I'm just going to ditch it. I know it makes people look better, but if it doesn't give them health, then it's kind of a wash.
Yeah, no, I think that's very, very good advice, because it's one thing to lose weight or look good, but that doesn't always mean that you're necessarily healthy on the inside. And I tell people all that all the time. There's a million ways to lose weight and get skinny. There's even a lot of unhealthy ways to get a six-pack. That, and I know a lot of people that do, physique competitions, for example, that are like at 5% body fat, but like, man, they almost kill themselves getting there,
Yeah.
So just because you look good doesn't mean you're healthy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Sorry, I cut you off. You were going to say something there.
No, I just reiterating it. Same thing. It's just not worth it in the long run.
Yeah. Do you feel like your overall physique has changed doing this versus what you were eating before? Or do you feel like you're pretty much the same, like look-wise, but it's more for performance and health and how you feel?
Yeah, I'm one of those guys I'm a hard gainer, and just like putting weight on is generally pretty tough for me to do. So I don't necessarily show it on the outside a lot, maybe a little bit leaner because I'm eating a lot less fat. But I think I'm just curious to see how the health markers pop up. And then performance-wise, I think I feel a little better in workouts just because I'm eating more calories because I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. What is, can I ask specifics as far as like, what does your pre and post workout meals look like? Just to give people a general sense of what Chris Beeler does. Not to say that that's what they should do, but just kind of, give them an idea of what you do. Yeah.
I might be a little different in that I kind of like to work out on a little bit more of an empty stomach. And I think that kind of started from the wrestling thing. I just got so used to losing weight and performing just kind of sucked out. So I don't really do much for pre-workout. I try to eat, and then work out within 2 hours of that. But afterwards, I usually kind of have the go-to of just doing a protein shake, and I take creatine and I'll mix it with coconut water. And the coconut water is just to give me the added carbohydrates, and then having obviously the protein, and then creatine I feel like is one of the supplements that I usually respond pretty well to.
Yeah. That was actually my next question is like, what specific supplements do you take?
That's it. I'm just taking creatine right now, and I take fish oil. Okay. But aside from that, I really don't take a ton. I've tried some BCAAs in the past, and like the beta-alanine stuff, and it just hasn't ever really. I haven't seen much of a result from it. So, yeah, I would even encourage people that are trying to figure those things out. Very, very first is just take a look at what you're eating, because if you're not eating well, the supplements are kind of a wash.
Yeah, and I used to be of that same mentality back in the day. It was like pre-workout, BCAAs, during workout, protein shake, night protein shake, and all these other supplements that it just, I don't know. In my opinion, I've kind of shifted away from most supplements. I do take some vitamins and minerals now, just to help balance things out, but for the most part, it has to come from your food, and I'm a big believer in that as well. And but anyways, that's really cool to hear you talk about. Now, I take creatine too. Do you cycle on and off of it, or do you just take it consistently, all the time?
Yeah, I've done it both ways in the past. I'm trying to just take it consistently and see what happens. I've been taking it for probably I'm guessing 4 months now. So I might cycle off of it for a month just to see how I feel and then hop back on it. But I think it's probably a good idea for most people to cycle off of it.
Yeah. Next question is, now that you're not really competing in the games, what goals are you shooting for? You change up your macros, you take creatine. Are you shooting for any specific goals coming up, as far as performance or any competitions? Or is it just, this is just you, you're training for life?
Yeah, I think it's honestly just for education.
Okay.
I think for a lot of it, it's definitely for health. I want to see what happens with it. the goals that I have, honestly, I just want to be able to have a training volume and do some training that I really like, and then have a volume that allows me to do the stuff that I like to do outside the gym. So I'm not just stuck in the gym hours on end. And then the education side of things is really just to help me kind of evolve in the coaching aspect as I start to coach more athletes and help them out. I think it's a good idea for me to have a grasp on some of the things that I may prescribe or suggest to them. Because you can talk about it all you want, but if you haven't done it, you don't really know what it's about.
No, I agree with that 100%. I actually recommend a lot of people, even coaches, to become, their own self-experimentation. Find what works best for you, and then that way, once you have your own experience on a certain type of, diet or nutrition program, you can better speak about it to the people that you're training. So I think that's great advice, because it's one thing to say, oh yeah, veganism is horrible for you, or, ketosis is really bad, unless you've really done it and understand it and study it and done a little self-experiment on yourself. I think you're a lot more knowledgeable once you've kind of played with certain things when someone's coming to you asking for your advice. But if you don't have any experience on it, it's easy just to say, well, this is what my friend told me about it. So
Exactly.
So anyways, man, well, cool. Before we wrap up, is there any events coming up that you went to Korea? Is there any other events coming up for you that people can look forward to seeing you?
I'm going to be out at the CrossFit Games in a couple weeks, helping out an athlete of mine, Garrett Fisher. He's going to be there competing, which will be cool to watch him. And then after that, I do some online programming with Icon Athlete, and I'm going to have an athlete camp in Park City in the middle of August. So I'm going to try to get a crew of about 15 people out that want to just kind of train and throw down and enjoy what Park City has to offer. So those are kind of the two big things coming up on the calendar.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That sounds really cool. I've never been to the CrossFit Games. I won't be able to make it this year. I'll be traveling, but I do want to go in the future. Who do you think is going to take it this year? Now that, Rich Froner's not competing as an individual, who do you see taking it?
And I think it's going to be really interesting. It's like the competition is just getting better and better. I think Matt Frazier definitely looks really hungry this year, but you can't leave anyone out anymore. You never know. There's the top 10 are always gunning for that spot.
Yeah. What about on the women's side? Same thing?
On the women's side, I don't follow it as well, but chances are it'll be someone with the last name Daughter. somebody from the Nordic countries. Gotcha. Iceland always does well.
Oh, that's funny, man. That's awesome. Okay. Really quick before I ask another quick questions, where can people find you, connect with you, ask you questions, like social media, your website? You mentioned Icon Athlete, all those things.
Yeah, iconathlete.com is where you can kind of check out the programming side of things that I offer. Social media stuff, there's Icon Athlete. And then C Spieler is where a lot of stuff on the Instagram feed or Facebook where people can find out more info.
Okay, man. We'll put all that in the show notes so people can get a hold of you. Really quick, I got to ask you, and ask all my followers this: would you ever get fat on purpose? Would you ever do Fit to Fat to Fit?
Man, I've watched it and I have such an appreciation for you guys. I think I'd be so scared to do it only because of the health. I don't know how I'd feel health wise. I think I'd go insane too.
Yeah, and plus, here's the thing: I don't think it would be hard for you to actually get fat because, you said, you're a hard gainer. Yeah, man. I don't know if you really could. Do you think you could? Have you stopped exercising completely?
I don't know if I could do that. The closest I got, I went on a big weight gaining phase where I would just lift. So all I would do is lift about 5 days a week, and I did CrossFit 1 day a week, and I was eating 5,000 calories a day. And still, it took me probably 3 months to get up to 161. And I stopped eating like that, and literally 5 days later, I had lost 10 pounds, just gone.
That is so fun. Yeah, they wouldn't pick you for the show, for sure.
That's not gonna work.
Yeah, this guy. Yeah, it's not gonna be quite dramatic enough for this TV show, man. Well, cool, Chris, man. I appreciate you coming on, man. I appreciate you sharing your knowledge, and I appreciate what you do in the community. And thank you so much, man.
Yeah, thanks for your time, Drew. I really appreciate it.
Okay, we'll talk to you later.
All right, bro.
All right, you guys, thank you so much for listening to today's episode with Chris Beether. Hope you definitely learned some valuable information from this episode with Chris. We definitely are open to you guys giving us suggestions of who you would like to have on the show, who you want us to interview. Let us know. Feel free to reach out to us via email. If you sign up for my newsletter on my website, you can get a hold of me there. Also, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, you guys can definitely reach me. I try and respond to everybody's comments. Sometimes it gets hard, but I try and respond to everybody's. So feel free to reach out to me there. My website is fit2fat2fit.com. All my social media handles are at fit2fat2fit. That's with a number 2 in between. And reach out to me there and let me know your suggestions, things you guys want us to talk about. We definitely love you guys and appreciate you guys for all the support. Please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes and please leave us a review. We would definitely highly appreciate if you guys did that for us so that we can continue to bring you guys high quality content every single week. We hope you guys will join us back here next week for another great episode on the Fit to Fat to Fit Experience podcast.